を持ち込む。 Good morning. Welcome to this morning's service. It's good to see, but it's good to have you here this morning for our spring Ohigan service. We'll begin this morning's service with the reading of Sambujo and Juseike. Namanda, 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 Namanda. Ujo mi
kom bơ y nai se shơ bơ sai cho binh hơ se phơ cho shong a ma shi cho mơ tsơ no myo cho cho je pa bơ kya mi sho mon se phơ cho shong a li yo ke jin sho nen jo e sho bong yo 칭음어 저도 이셔텐님 심 진리기엔 나이코 버셔무 사이노 저조상금요 버사이슈야 근난 하이히지 앵예 내시꼬모안 해성쇼 아근노 서나츠센슈몬 보소조만족 이여로 기쁨 내칭나츠 슈저키 땡코 엄풍엔 이슈가이 호소 고세군어구호 조오나이슈점 셈모시시금 그여 이사이브스 여성셔동훈 간내시춘조만 도그 이상나이오 여부츠무게집 저나츠미허쇼 낭나크에릭 도시사이쇼손 신난야곡합 나이센노간노 오드쇼텐님 보브치묘게
Again, good morning and welcome to this morning's Ohigan service. We are fortunate to have with us our guest speaker, Reverend Blayne Higa, who is current minister of Kona Honganji. And when I made arrangements to ask Higa Sensei to join us for this morning's Ohigan service, it was a long time ago, and I was not aware that not aware. I was not thinking that we will be going into our daylight savings times. So it is like before 7 o'clock in the morning for Higa Sensei. And so thank you for joining us this morning. Higa Sensei, before becoming a minister, actually spent 17 years in state government work as a nonprofit and nonprofit fundraising. He holds a Master of Public Administration degree. He is also a graduate of the Institute of Buddhist Studies, and he received Tokudo in 2012 and his Kyoshi certification in 2018. Again, he is currently of the Kona Honganji. And thank you for joining us at this early morning. Please welcome Blayne Sensei, Higa Sensei, to this morning's service.
So good morning and aloha.
Aloha.
It's so nice to join you virtually for your spring Ohigan service. Thank you very much to Reverend Sakamoto for inviting me to share with you today. The pandemic has impacted our lives in so many ways, hasn't it? For example, our temple preschool has done a wonderful job of adapting to the numerous COVID-19 safety guidelines to keep our teachers and students safe. However, one of the guidelines that is that the entire school is not able to be together in one place. And so, because of this change, one of the things I miss the most is spending time with our preschoolers during their monthly temple visits, greeting their joyful faces at the door, sharing a story, and talking with them was truly the highlight of my day. Despite being there to learn from me, I always came away with my heart full and lessons learned. Let me share with you a short story from the Buddhist tradition that reminds us of how there are teachers within and all around us. Many centuries ago, a young novice monk traveled alone in the mountains of Tibet. He wandered about penniless, begging for a meager meal from time to time. One day, just as evening fell, he found himself on a bitterly cold mountain pass. But there, tucked in a high alpine meadow, he noticed a small home. He knocked upon the door. When it opened, a grizzled ancient couple greeted him. They welcomed the young monk into their home, allowing him to escape the icy mountain wind. Because it is an honor to feed a monk, they cheerfully readied a wonderful supper for their guest. At some point during the meal preparations, the old man went outside to herd his cattle into the night pasture, and the old woman went to fetch some water at the well. They left the young monk alone, tending the fire. But suddenly, shouts from the house echoed from cliff to cliff in the mountain meadow. "Thief! Robber!" they heard the young monk shout. "Get out and never come back." The monk created such a noisy tumult that the old man and woman hastened back as quickly as their old legs would run, pitchforks and hoes in hand to deal with the thief. When they burst through the door, all they saw was the lone monk, flushed as a berry, running around the table, slapping his right hand and cursing himself. On the table was an open tea container with a few leaves scattered about. "Thief!" he admonished his right hand and held it high. "If I ever catch you trying to steal a little something again, I will be rid of you." The old couple looked at each other and chuckled at the young monk. They served him a fine supper and offered him a warm place to rest for the evening. The monk bowed respectfully and thanked them for their generosity. But he wanted to resume his homeless life that very night. Before he left, however, the young monk pronounced that on that evening, in their house, he met his inner teacher, from whom he would never again part. He thanked the old couple and went on his way. So, who are the teachers in your life? And what lessons do they share with you? Children, by their nature, are natural teachers. With open hearts and minds, they teach us how we should be. As adults, many of us have forgotten how the happiness of another person is directly connected to our own. We often think of happiness as a pie that we reluctantly share a piece of because we want to keep more for ourselves. Children, on the other hand, naturally understand that happiness is not a finite resource to be jealously guarded, but rather is limitless, and it should be shared freely. The Buddha teaches thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. Recently, our preschoolers participated in the Great Kindness Challenge to help cultivate a culture of kindness and compassion throughout the world. They made and delivered floral arrangements to businesses in the neighborhood, waved signs along the highway in front of our temple, and created links out of recycled paper, which will be joined with others to create the world's largest or longest paper chain, all connected by messages of love and hope. And don't we need this message and this reminder of hope and love even more in today's world? Amid the ongoing pandemic, these little ones teach me how we should treat and care for one another. They remind me how truly effortless being kind and compassionate can be. Children implicitly understand how we are profoundly connected by love, and they demonstrate it with every fiber of their being. Every parent, every grandparent knows this to be true. They spontaneously live Amida's golden chain of love. They naturally keep their link bright and strong. They are naturally kind and gentle and protect all who are weaker than themselves. they naturally try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, words, and deeds. And they understand that happiness of self and other is profoundly connected, intimately connected. Happiness inspires happiness, just like how one candle can light 1,000. In the busyness of our lives, can we take a moment to relearn these simple lessons that children are so eager to teach? But in all honesty, it could be that I am simply missing being hugged by 30 preschoolers as we say goodbye at the end of our time together. That in itself is a remarkable lesson. Thank you. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu.
Thank you, Sensei. A wonderful message. I think we all need to be reminded sometimes of how connected we are and how what we do affects the people around us. Even a simple gesture like paper rings, paper links in the chain, uh, can give a sense of being connected. Uh, and especially in this time of the pandemic and with all that's going on in the world around us. Thank you for reminding us of how important it is to stay connected, share our lives with one another. This concludes this morning's Dharma School service. Again, thank you, Higa Sensei, for joining us. We will continue at 10:10 with our Ohigan service this morning. Again, Higa Sensei joins us for that service. Students off to class, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's, excuse me, Spring Ohigan Service. We'll begin this morning's service with the reading of Sambujo and Jusege. So if you please join us now in sutra chanting. Today, on this occasion of the Spring Ohigan, the members of the San Jose Buddhist Church Betsuin reverently come before Amida Buddha with deepest reverence and thankfulness for the all-embracing wisdom and compassion of Amida. We reaffirm the three homages. Namanda, Namanda, Namandas.
성악 나오무녀고 그 이나이 세슈 버사이쇼 빙급 세이프조 성악 나시조 부츠노 요쇼조 지법 극혐이쇼몬 세이프조 성악 미역진쇼넨 조에쇼몽염 싱어무존업 이쇼텐닌십 진리기엔나이고 어쇼무사이노 쇼조상금염 고사이시야군난 가이히지engem 메시코모안 해성쇼아군노 서나츠센쇼몬 고소조만석 이여로지법 니칭아츠슈주기 땡코옴풍옌 이슈카이호소 고세군노구호 조오다이슈쯤 셈모시시금 거여이서이벗 어성슈통헌 간내시즈조만 포크이상아이옵 묘무츠무게집 서나츠미퍼쇼 강악에릭 도시사이쇼선 싱안약곡갑 다이센오칸도 포크쇼텐닌 포워치묘게 시과동음 변호세이사이 노헛머나이신 오조
Will you please join now in the reading of the three treasures? And again, we're using the three treasures that's in the large service book and found on page 8. So if you please join us. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves the supreme will. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depths of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha and be freed from all hindrances, become units of true accord in the life of harmony, in the spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through ages of myriads of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namanda. Namanda, namanda, namanda. Once again, good morning, and thank you for joining us for this spring Ohigan service. This morning we have a wonderful guest speaker, Reverend Blayne Higa. He is currently assigned to the Kona Honganji temple in Kealakekua, Hawaii. I used to be able to say that with more confidence, but Kealakekua, Kealakekua. But he joins us this morning by Zoom. And so, but when I asked Higa Sensei to be our speaker for our Ohigan service, it was earlier in the year. And I really didn't think, I thought, oh, okay, he's in a different time zone, but it's not too bad for him to join us. I was thinking not too bad, but I was also thinking of my own benefit. But right now it's like 7:30 in the morning. He had to join us for the 9:30 service because we switched over to daylight savings time, and he joined us for our Dharma school, pre-Dharma school kind of preparation. And it was a little after 6 his time when he joined us. But it's now getting on to be nearly 7:30 for him, and we are glad that he is able to join us. He was actually a assistant minister or assisting ministers in Moilili, Honganji, where I grew up, and so he shares this kind of common experience or background. Although the Moilili Honganji has probably changed quite a bit since my time growing up in the Moilili part of Honolulu. But Reverend Higa has chaired the Committee of Social Concerns for the Honpa Honganji Mission of Hawaii. He serves also on the board of the American Civil Liberties Union of Hawaii and Vibrant Hawaii. He is the past president of the Moilili Honganji Board of Directors and former vice president of the Honpa Honganji Mission of Hawaii. He was very instrumental in moving forward their marriage inclusion legislation, and important that the Honganji of Hawaii was also very strong, because of his presence, a very strong voice in that marriage equality legislation. He received his Tokudo in 2012 and his Kyoshi certification in 2018. He is a graduate. He has a master's degree from the Institute of Buddhist Studies. He has many credentials and a very fun person to talk with. But he joins us now. Please welcome Reverend Blayne Higa. It's good to see you again. Thank you for your message in our Dharma school service. We look forward to hearing you. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. I'm looking down because that's where the monitor is. Otherwise, I have to go like this. Hi, how are you? I don't know which is better. But anyway, it's good to see you. Thank you for
Good to see
joining
you.
us.
Thank you, Sensei. Thank you so much for inviting me to share with your Sangha today. Again, good morning, everybody, and happy spring Ohigan and aloha from Hawaii. So, our world is in chaos, and it seems we are constantly trying to find our footing on the deck of a ship sailing on stormy seas. Our lives have been upended by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the political and civil unrest sweeping across our nation. These events remind us there is an imbalance in nature and within our own society that is a cause of immense suffering and pain. Earlier this week, 8 people were killed in mass shootings at Asian-owned spas in Atlanta, Georgia. We are all shocked and horrified by these reprehensible acts of hate. We mourn the loss of life and condemn the continued violence against Asian American Pacific Islander communities across our nation. Since the COVID-19 pandemic began a year ago, there has been an exponential rise in hate crimes directed towards Asian Americans. Like other marginalized groups, there is a long and painful history of racism, scapegoating, and exclusion of AAPI communities in the United States. No one should live in fear or of physical or verbal violence because of their race, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation, profession, or any other characteristic. There is beauty and strength in our diversity as a nation. We need to speak out against hate in all forms for our mutual welfare and benefit. As Buddhists, we are devoted to the pursuit of harmony, peace, and gratitude, and we strive to embody the Buddha's teachings in our thoughts, through our words, and by our actions. These acts of hatred must stop. What happens to one affects us all. Compassion for self and others is the difficult yet necessary work we all must engage in to heal and to transform our world. In times of uncertainty, it is common for us to seek quick and easy answers to our problems. And in recent years, many people, including some of our political leaders, have turned to believing in and promoting dangerous conspiracy theories and alternative facts. Belief in these theories often arises from a human need to feel more in control of an uncontrollable situation. However, what also arises is the dark side of our nature, which assumes the worst as we look to find blame in others. This imbalance of perspective leads to further suffering, and we find ourselves spiraling down a rabbit hole of fear, anxiety, and hatred. This imbalance nurtures the 3 poisons of greed, hatred, and ignorance, and foments the spread of white supremacy, conspiracy theories, and the denial of science. However, the Buddha offers wisdom for living through such turbulent times and how to determine which path to follow and who to believe. In a story from the Kalama Sutra, Shakyamuni Buddha visits the village of the Kalama people, who share with him how numerous holy men have visited their village claiming their teachings are the best and how others are false. They tell the Buddha of their confusion and ask for his help in deciding who to listen to and what they should believe. The Buddha tells the villagers that it is only natural to feel such confusion and doubt. He then offers the following advice: neither believe nor reject anything simply because you have heard it. Do not believe in traditions simply because they have been handed down for generations. Do not believe what is written in religious books. Do not believe something just because it superficially seems to be true. Do not believe something for reasons of logic or philosophy. Do not believe anything merely by authority of your teachers and elders. Even if I tell you something, do not believe it. The Buddha tells them to trust their own experience and to know
You know,
for themselves whether a teaching leads to
yeah, it's
harm
just, it doesn't exist anymore. So I don't know what happened.
for self and others. The simple test encourages us to thoroughly examine
Well,
experience and to
okay. So we both, I mean, that's a link that we got from Aiko.
teaching or advice with the compassionate heart and mind of a bodhisattva.
Oh,
The Buddha empowers us to tap into our own intelligence and wisdom guided by the light of the Dharma. This is why Shinran Shonin believed it was so rare to encounter a good teacher and even more difficult to discern a good teaching. He shares the following verse from the hymns of the Pure Land. He says, "It is difficult to meet true teachers and difficult for them to instruct. It is difficult to hear the teaching well and more difficult still to accept it." This is why Shinran was so grateful to receive the Nembutsu teaching from his master, Honen Shonin, and accepted it only after he thoroughly tested its veracity within his own life. This is the deep and profound faith that arose in Shinran's life through the working of the Dharma. It was only through the power of the Nembutsu that Shinran was able to meet with his true self that comes from the other shore of enlightenment. It is this profound spiritual awakening that inspires us to follow the Buddhist path and to live naturally, practicing the 6 bodhisattva activities of generosity, discipline, patience, energy, meditation, and insight. This is the working of the other shore that is present within each moment of our ordinary lives. This is the spirit of Ohigan that we should reflect on and strive to live every day. In his book, Awaken to Your True Self, a Shin Buddhist way of life, Dr. Hideo Yonezawa says, moment to moment, we are living a life that is not easy to have. This is what the other shore is teaching. The weight, the importance of each and every moment. Namu Amida Butsu teaches me the world of the true self. This self that has come from the other shore. It is a phrase that comes from the other shore. And he goes on to say, people who live only on this shore of samsara cannot understand the phrase Namu Amida Butsu. I think that a person who thinks of the importance of the other shore will, for the first time, begin to understand Namu Amida Butsu. To think that this shore is the real world is to think backwards. Namu Amida Butsu teaches us how we should really be and how backwards we really are. The Buddha's teachings can help us to engage in a chaotic world with greater clarity and wisdom. It seems like more and more we are being inundated with conspiracy theories and misinformation about various issues people disagree with. Because you disagree with something or someone doesn't make it fake news. Just like the Buddha advised the Kalama people, think critically about the media and information you consume. Rigorously test its veracity based on whether it leads to harm or happiness for self and others. I recently came across an excellent online resource for assessing credible sources from the Cornell University Library. They offer the following practical advice for dealing and assessing questionable information and fake news. First is to recognize fake news sites. Be curious and actively investigate news stories. 2, use news sources that are accountable for their content and that follow journalistic ethics and standards. 3, use care before sharing news content with others on social media. Pause and reflect on news sources that arouse strong emotions, positive or negative. 4, learn to recognize your own biases and compensate for them. These guidelines ask us to do what the Buddha taught for assessing information, with a critical eye and self-reflecting on our thoughts, our emotions, and our own biases. This is why we go to the Dharma for guidance. The truth matters, especially when making decisions that impact our lives and the lives of others. Truth matters when dealing with public health. Truth matters in our democracy. Discerning truth relates directly to our ability to use wholesome speech as we are taught in the Noble Eightfold Path. The Dharma teaches us how seeing things happen according to causes and conditions is to see the truth. The conditions for violence have been created by the continued use of hateful speech directed towards Asian Americans. We can see how the use of racist language has led to these acts of senseless violence, including the recent vandalism and burning of the Higashi Honganji temple in Los Angeles. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If one speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows one as the wheel follows the foot of an ox that draws the wagon. If one speaks or acts with a pure thought, happiness follows one like a shadow that never leaves." Let us be mindful of using language which fosters compassion and love rather than anger and hate. Let us cease hatred through love, as the Buddha taught. We can disagree without hate, vitriol, and violence. We must learn to live together for the sake of our collective future. Our differences can be resolved through respectful dialogue based on truth and fact. Anything else is a waste of time. We have real problems that need to be addressed. We have the difficult task of mending ourselves, our communities, and our nation. This process will be uncomfortable and sometimes painful. But if we move forward together with love and compassion for each other, we can and we will heal. We observe Ohigan during the spring and fall equinox, when day and night are in perfect balance. In many ancient cultures, it is a time of celebration, which reminds us of our deep connection to the rhythms and cycles of the earth and the entire universe. Ohigan translates as the other shore and is a metaphor for crossing over from this shore of ignorance, anger, and greed to the other shore of peace and awakening. This is an occasion for us to reflect deeply on the nature of our true self, which is hidden beneath our ego. It is this ego self that is seduced by the promise of simplistic answers offered by conspiracy theories and the echo chambers that poison our hearts and minds. The Buddha's teaching is the antidote which neutralizes ignorance and helps us to discern fact from fiction, truth from lies, and what is wholesome and unwholesome in life. This is why, during Ohigan, we reflect on cultivating spiritual balance through living the Buddha's teachings. May our thoughts, our words, and our actions be guided always by the light of all-inclusive wisdom and all-embracing compassion as we journey along the difficult path of peace, healing, and justice. Please join me in Gasho, and let's recite the Nembutsu in joy, in gratitude, and in awareness. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda. Mahalo. Thank you so much again for having me join you for your spring Ohigan service.
Thank you, Sensei. Your message is so wonderful. I think we all need to pay attention to the way that we view the world. Buddhism encourages us to do that. But not only how we view the world, but how we respond to with compassion and care. To test as the Buddha instructed us, to test for ourselves the veracity or validity of what we're hearing and what we're seeing. Thank you for reminding us again of the importance of the Buddha's words in our everyday life, that even in this time, 2,600 years later, just as relevant and important as they were, as they are, were then and now. Again, Blayne Sensei, Higa Sensei, thank you for your words this morning and sharing with us your appreciation of the Dharma. This concludes today's Ohigan service. Please Take care of yourselves, take care of one another. We're not out of the pandemic yet. We certainly have a lot to do yet. But in the meantime, please take care of one another. Thank you very much. And again, Higa Sensei, thank you for joining us today. If you please join in Gassho as we close. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.